All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. I hope everybody had a great trading day today. So let me get this tweeted out for everybody here so everybody can join in. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So today we're going to continue our discussion on the secrets for profiting. And this is based on Stan Weinstein's book, The Secrets for Profiting in Bull and Bear Markets. So just a really good discussion for this week because the market's been really interesting, right? I mean, did we put it in an all-time high? And are we getting ready to reverse down off of them? We were already reversing a little bit, so it's a very interesting time, and I think it's kind of an appropriate discussion for this week. So today we're going to be continuing it. We're going to be talking about power ranges. So it's going to be an interesting topic here. But before we get started, everything we're going to talk about is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So please take a moment to review this disclaimer. All right, let's awesome. Let's check and see where we're at with the market. So where we left off. So I got the monthly chart pulled up here on SPX. We did put in a topping tail so far on the month. There's only a few more days, 2 more trading days left in the month, right? So it's looking a little interesting here, right? With the with an upper shadow on the monthly chart, right? As we're at the upper Bollinger Band too of the monthly chart too. So that being said, here's the weekly chart, right? So remember this week we added the 30 weekly MA, right? The 30 MA on the weekly chart. How important that is, right? Look at that nice bounce, right? Going up, right? And we don't really get bearish until we can really confirm below the 30 moving average. It's a great indicator from the book. Daily chart. Let's see where we're at. So today was pretty interesting, right? So it was Fed day, right? Exciting, good, exciting, fun stuff, right? So so it's red day in the market, right? So pretty interesting, right? So we gapped down on Monday, right, on fears of the coronavirus. We also had a U.S. embassy hit by rockets in Iraq, and so we haven't really heard much about that since then, right? No retaliation or anything like that. So that was interesting. But anyway, that was the first kind of real big gap down in the market in a while. It's kind of scary, right? So we really needed to see and evaluate what happened that day. Right, and so the real key move is we had already broken down this upward trend line right here. So we had a trend box here, and the real key is where we landed and how this candle formed. Right, so if this candle formed as like sort of a shooting star, a real bearish red candle, right, we would have looking to go bearish on this, right? But what happened is we put in kind of a reversal candle. Now, a spinning top can be a continuation candle as well, but at least it leaves you into that oh, hold on, stand back a little bit. What's going on here? Let's be careful, right? We don't know exactly what way it's going to go yet, so we have to wait and evaluate. So we have the trend box right here. Then we wait to see if we get confirmation below that level. So even though this gap down below this level here, it's not true confirmation of a downside move unless we get a bearish candle off of that, right? And that never happened, right? So the next day, right, on Tuesday, yesterday, we gapped up, right? And then we filled the gap, right? I mean, it was the gap fill day, right? Big range on the 32 points on the SPX, came back up, did its job, filled the gap, and then kind of came down a little bit, left an upper shadow, right? Now this is a belt hold bar, right? And generally a bullish candle. Generally considered a bullish candle, but you know how we talk about it, right? Give us an upper shadow right here. That kind of is like a little standoffish right there. It's okay, it did its job, it filled the gap, now what's next, right? And then so today we gap up again, and what it failed to do is tag the close of this of Friday's candle, and it gave you another upper shadow here and kind of pulled back pretty hard right into the Fed day, right? So the Fed was an interesting one today. Let's take a look at the price action here today. So with the Fed, right, so it was interesting, right? So today, right, we had our 15 order, we had an upper shadow right here, shooting star, pushed down, nice move down, right, and then a nice move back up, but it kind of couldn't get above the 15 order below today, right? Not until before the Fed, right, started to kind of break in a little bit, right? Nice candle to get into the range, right? But then it's kind of chopped around a little bit, a little shooting star, a little bit of a spinning top right here. It kind of held out, and then we had the the initial move right here, right, the 2 o'clock conference call, right? So basically, all that happened, all that was said was, okay, we're not changing rates, right? And then so after that, right, we get a spinning top, right? Okay, so it's kind of like indecision, kind of boring, right? I mean, the whole thing was kind of boring, right? So from there, right, we wait for the conference call, right? And then the conference call comes here, right? And it's still a little bit like, okay, we're not breaking down, we're kind of back in the range. It kind of worked its way up a little bit, and just kind of did its thing in here. And then it was like, okay, there wasn't really too much said in the not the conference call, but the press conference. And so there wasn't really too much said in the press conference that was really negative. But I think maybe the the market is starting to get a little bit concerned about these repo operations, right? Because they didn't really indicate too much about the coronavirus, but obviously it's a concern, right? They address that as potential concern, but I think it's like these repo operations. So I mean, who knows? I mean, who knows exactly what it is? But either way, the market decided it really didn't like it, right? And so boom, you get this candle right here after the conference call, and that's your signal for a short, right? We break down below this level right here. There's your momentum move through all these guys, right? So let's get a little trend line off of here. Right, so we break down here, you get your momentum down through there, and you get a nice move to the downside, a big push down. Then we found a little bit of support in this area right here, right? And then we got a little bit of a bounce, and then look at that, right back to these levels right here, and it said, nope, no thanks, upper shadow, and then flushed into the close. And so now what we're seeing, right, let's check out the, right, these are our levels here that we use today. We provide these to our members, right? So we can see we kind of traveled a lot between these levels as well. And then, of course, we had the intraday levels that were tested too. You can see how it came back up, tested it, right? And so, kind of, we talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago about symmetry, right? So you have this, duplicate, right? Kind of have a little bit of a symmetrical line right there, a little bit of a similar distance. And so, anyway, we came back down into the close. So now, let's take a look at the S&P futures and see what kind of follow through we're getting so far. So here we go. So we have ES. Okay, and so here's the S&P futures. Now we're down 13 points right after the close from today, right? So you can kind of see this is basically very similar to the SPX right here. There was that reversal. It's kind of like where we closed here at the end of the day, right? And then afterward, after hours, Tesla had a big move, right? Facebook had a bad move. Microsoft had a good move. And so at this point, we are bearish, right? Kind of going into the evening, right? And so we have, a couple different trend lines right here that we could work with. But in general, we are down, right? So we'll see what kind of follow through we get here. If we're down, 13 points, maybe who knows where we're going to open up. Maybe we'll open down like 20 points, something like that, right? But if we do that, right, so where will that put us, right? So we just want to kind of plan ahead a little bit, right? So we go to the daily chart right here. So if we're down 20 points from here, that's 72, right? We'd be down to 52, which would put us right at the gap up level, right here. So we basically be around this 3250 area. So if we do open here, then it gets interesting, right? So this is your kind of first little pullback here after a down move, right? So we're still not out of the woods yet. We're still in the trend box. If we come back down here and we end up having, a bearish close on Thursday like this, right? And we can check the futures and the ES, we may be seeing some more downside movement, right? We've got some open gaps below down here. We've got the 50-day moving average, which, is kind of catching up a little bit, right? So it's potential, right, to find support there. But then below there, we got the cloud, and then we got our macro trend line. So this is definitely a very, very interesting movement that we're seeing right now in the market. So definitely need to pay attention to it, and and it helps to to know some of these tools that we've been talking about this week. So we're going to continue that in a moment here. So that being said, tonight we're going to talk about power ranges. So in the book, right, Weinstein doesn't call it power ranges. It's kind of a name I came up for it. I just thought it was pretty interesting because we did a lot of discussions, with the Wyckoff method, and we talked about also is the law of charts, right? Recently, using ranges and trying to find breakout ranges, and we found some pretty cool ones that were great examples, like with Beyond and Shack and things like that. So here I just kind of want to talk about the same thing. And so what Weinstein talks about in his book, right, is basically, let's go to the daily chart right here. So basically, what we've been talking, what we think about as ranges, right, as power ranges, and so not Power Rangers, but power ranges, and so one of the things that we think about here is is looking for those breakouts. And so what he talks about is there's two types of breakouts, right? There's a breakout from a trend line, right? So we talk about that all the time, right? Here's your trend line right here, right? You get your breakout levels right here. And so what he would say is, what I've done is I've translated the 30 weekly MA over to the daily chart as the 150 MA. Right? And so you can see once we got over this trend line, even though it was a nice move from down here, once we got over this trend line, right, this was kind of like your breakout pivot right here, right? So there's your pivot right there. We get above that, kind of retest, and then work our way up, right? Came back down, retest the retest the breakout level itself, right? And then it comes back and then gives another move up. And then it comes back to the 30, consolidates for a little bit, goes up again, comes back, tests it, and then here we are today, right? So is it coming up and is it working its way towards the the 30 weekly moving average? We'll have to see, right, to see what it's doing. So anyway, the idea is how do we find these ranges? How do we identify it, and when does it make sense, right? So one of the tools that he uses, of course, are the trend lines, right? So it's pretty cool. He uses trend lines just like we do. The other one, of course, is the ranges, right? And so we want to use that as well. And what he said is the bigger the range, the better, right? And the more and the more powerful the move, especially, and again, this book is primarily written for investors, right? So we can still look at it. That's right, so typically we look at that, right, as a as day traders, right? So we also look for intraday ranges, breakouts like that, but not as common as we would see, potentially, and definitely not as we don't have as much time to think intraday, right? So we kind of have to use our methods and go with those, right? But there are some examples of that. So here, just as an example here on the SPX, and we'll take a look at another one too momentarily, right? You can see here we got into a trading range, right, on the SPX. Okay, so the real thing is, right, so if we can get above this trading range, right, then we would be bullish, right? But what happens if we get below this trading range, right? We become bearish. And why would we do that? Because we're below the 30 weekly MA, right? And so once we get below this trading range, right, that is opportunity to be bullish. And this is a nice confirmation candle right here below. You can kind of see it right here. Look at that, a real nice one below all these levels right here. Gave it inside day, a little bit of a move up, the shakeout, some weak hands, and then boom, right to the downside. So even if we got short here at 25.46, right, you can see this thing moved all the way down to 23.51. So it was still a 200-point trade on the SPX, which is pretty powerful with some puts, right? So that is basically what these power ranges are. And so what I did is just, it's basically a trading range, but it's using the 30 weekly MA to determine if how strong that might be, right? And again, additionally, you can add our momentum tools that we talked about yesterday to also gauge the strength of that, right? So here we could see the 200 SMA on the momentum, right, cross below into the bearish territory here as we broke down out of the trading range to give even more confidence to the downside on this move. So very, very powerful stuff. And very applicable, right? So one of the things that we want to look at, I just want to give you another example real quick. So that was a downside move, right? You can see here we had an upside move, right? We had a bit of a trading range right here, and really you could look at this as an even bigger trading range, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down, right? And then once we got it here, we're over the 30 weekly MA, and then we got this nice move up, right? So it takes a lot of patience, right? Because the distance between this trading range and this trading range, right, is 123 days, right? So that's a long time, right? So you just gotta wait, right? So you gotta wait months. That's why we like day trading, because sometimes it's not as fun to wait, or you can catch these things intraday. So just want to give another quick example too. Shop is I thought a pretty good one as well. If we actually go to the weekly chart, right, we can kind of take a look right here. Let me get a clear chart for everybody, so we can clear that up a little bit. So Shop was an interesting run, right? It had, pretty much an epic run, right? And in fact, it's, on the weekly chart, it's really not that old of a stock either, right? So it gave a couple interesting trading ranges, right, along the way, right? So one of the things we can do is this, and you can do it just, very simply with a, channel tool, right? Look at that, nicely range bound right here as we get above, and this is the weekly chart, right? So that's a lot of weeks, right? So if you think about it, it takes a long time, but this is an investment strategy, right? So, but the idea is, but again, feel free to look at these, on the intraday levels to look for examples too, right? So anyway, the idea here, right, is we finally got a nice breakout candle here on the weekly chart, nice volume. We're over the 30 weekly MA, and then look what happens from there, right? Just a nice move up, couple little bull flags along the way, and then it starts to get, super explosive on there all the way through all these earnings. Right, so you're at 45, right, all the way up to 123, almost a 100-point move on Shopify as it continued to work its way up, right? And so then it continued to, right, do the same thing, right? We had a trading range here over the 30 MA, right, had a nice weekly breakout. 2 weeks of down move, but then a nice move back up, right? And then the trading range got bigger, right? Bigger the range, right? Well, not necessarily the wider the range, but the bigger the range, right, the longer the range, right, the bigger the breakout potential, right? So Shop, obviously, over all these quarters and ultimately over the course of an entire year, traded within a range, still decent moves, right? You're looking from like 150, to 170, so nice, 50, 60 point moves. And then we finally got out of this range through earnings, where I got some nice candles to get out of this. We're over the 30 moving average, right? And then the weekly chart just plowed its way up, 175 all the way up to 412, right? So pretty impressive stuff, right? And then here you can see the same thing, right? We got in a range right here, right, for a couple weeks. Couldn't really close bearishly below it, right? Every week had a lower shadow on it, right? It's not till we get below any of these levels that we start to get interest. Then boom, look at this. Big candle to get out of this range, and then see ya. All the way from, even if you got in at the end of the week, right, 363, right, all the way up to 480 for another 120-point move on Shopify. So Anyway, cool stuff. Really great tools, and tying them all together with the momentum indicator and the 30 weekly moving average. Turns out to be pretty powerful stuff, especially if you're an IRA investor or a long-term investor. For these things to kind of look out for. So, anyway, I hope you guys find that helpful. And at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those in the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can. And try to wrap up as early as possible so we can all get a good night's sleep and have an awesome trading day tomorrow. So good stuff. Yehovah Yireh, what's going on? Do you ever have red days? You're always in a good mood, right? Exactly. So yeah, I mean, of course, but we manage risk, and some the red days, long term don't outweigh the green days, so we try to be as happy as possible. And we don't always necessarily have to trade every day, right? If there's not a setup, right, or an actionable setup, right, we can sit on our hands, right? That's kind of a key deal too. You get a little bit of FOMO every now and then, like anybody, but it happens, right? You still want to look for the best setups to be as long-term profitable as possible. So yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, great. I really appreciate it. Wendy, what's going on? How are things in Singapore? I hope you're doing well this morning. Thank you for tuning in. Yo Mo, what's going on? Great work. Oh, thanks. JNUG, let's take a look. Let's go to the daily chart and see what's going on here. So JNUG. Well, it was a tricky day today for gold, right? So it was, granted, futures are down about 16 points already. So again, maybe we'll be down 20, maybe even more. We'll see where we open up tomorrow. But anyway, JNUG was good, right? We talked about this yesterday. It held the 50-day moving average really nicely, right? And it gave a nice little red, green candle today, especially after the Fed. It didn't close over anything interesting, so it made it tough. I don't think it was quite even bullish engulfing. Missed it by 20 cents for bullish engulfing, but it did engulf the real bodies of the candles, right? So we may see a little bit of an up move on that one. I definitely think gold is something to keep an eye on, and the precious metals and the miners, things like that are definitely good ones to look at going into tomorrow if the market is weak. So these have been, they trade a lot like the fangers intraday, so that could be a fun one there. So we'll keep an eye on that. Looks good. Seneca, what's going on? Oh yeah, SDC. I guess the moon would be for Tesla, right? So let's take a look though. So SDC, Smile Direct Club, nice candle today, right? Nice volume. I like it. The only thing I didn't like is that it was didn't close above any of these key levels right here. Now it did close above the prior day's open, right? But we still have these upper shadows to deal with, right? So we're kind of playing some strings up here to see if we can get above it. But it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Inside day up was nice, so a good move on SDC. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that one. And then of course Tesla. Did it do anything after hours? Sorry, 1382. No, it's just kind of basically flat. All right, so let's take a look at Tesla. So obviously Tesla had earnings tonight. Let's see how that's looking here right now. Yep, pretty good. So at this point, we just have to kind of go with our pre-market and aftermarket levels, right? So right now we're kind of forming a little bit of a bull pennant into the close, right? So, and obviously if we are down, Tesla is going to be one to look at. So hopefully we have some IV drop tomorrow, some IV crush, so we can get some good prices. If there was, what was it, 700s were trading today, pretty well. The 1,000 calls we're trading today. So there's options for tomorrow. But these are going to be the levels that we need to look at, right? So, if we don't have any, monthly levels that come up on it, right? So you've got 659 is going to be a point of interest. This consolidation zone right here at the 650, obviously whole number, right? The bottom of these levels is going to be an interesting level for tomorrow. And we need to see what we do, right? If it gives us a big pre-market box, like if we, kind of up to 670 tomorrow, then that's going to be a key level. And then where do we go from there? That gets a little bit tough with nothing at that point. You just have to go based on ATRs and just trade some price action on those, right? So you can always slap on some fibs to get some temporary levels, right? Look for some cluster areas, things like that. I mean, you could do like what we talked about the other day. I mean, you can kind of go here, get a couple levels here, like around that 680 level, right? You can kind of have those on just as intraday levels, for a trading range, things like that. And then of course you could do. Just look for cluster zones, on different pullbacks and things like that. Kind of look for some major areas too. So that's kind of what we'll look for tomorrow. Sako Taco, oof. Yep, exactly. Heather Felix, good evening. Hope you're doing great. Sako Taco Power Rangers, I know, exactly. I kind of thought of that after. I was like, I should have done a picture of a Power Ranger on that one. So Matthew, thanks for tuning in, man. Good to see you. Cloud Guy, yep, CRWD. Yeah, this is a nice one today. So I was strong. Strong intraday. Then it gave a little bit of pullback, right? But kind of like the rest of the market. But it did get some nice moves today. Nice 15-orb breakout today. Had some good momentum into the open. Nice gap up. Nice green candle going into the open. Nice strong 15-orb. A little bit of a pullback here, and then a nice push up, right? And then it kind of gave you your upper shadows right here. It just got a little complex intraday. But let's take a look and see how it closed today on the daily. Daily gave you an upper shadow, but it is still holding this 1, 2, 3 trend line. So we'll see if that continues into tomorrow. But again, getting over today's highs is going to be a real key thing for it. So good stuff. Laura, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. MDB, yeah. So I like MDB's price action today. I just didn't like how it closed. I was hoping it would be a little bit stronger, right? It did put an upper shadow in. It is, let's see what it's dealing with right here. It's kind of dealing with this pivot right here. So it, found some selling pressure off of that. I know this is messy with the fib fan lines and all that. And then you got this pivot level up here. So really at this point, it gave a nice bull flag breakout. So that was the trade, right? So we looked at this recently and had a nice trade there, bull flag breakout, nice move, good volume, right? Came into a lot of key levels. And now, for an extra setup, we want this thing to close bullishly above today's high, right? So that's kind of the key level right here. And that would take out that pivot there, close above this, good volume, right? This thing could be a nice potential swing to the upside. And then DOCU, let's take a look. Okay, yeah, so DOCU is actually doing pretty well, right? So it's still staying within its channel that we've been tracking, right? So up, down, up, down, up, down, right? It got down a little bit, right, on the big gap down in the market. In fact, this is actually, really, really strong for it, if you think about it. Right, so the whole market gap down, and then it didn't just fill its gap, it got back in the channel, and that gave it a nice move today. So it definitely hit a nice recent high today. I just wish it could have closed above these pivot levels, and that would have been wonderful. But it's definitely something to keep on the bullish radar. So really strong move the last couple of days, kind of proved its worth. So good stuff. Sako Taco, do you need a 30 SMA to fall inside the range? No, I mean, not necessarily. You just the moving averages are just moving averages, right? I mean, they're not like there's nothing magic to it. It's just kind of, but they are key levels of sentiment, right? So if you're over the 30 moving average, right, that kind of is an indication of bullishness. If you're under it, it's an indication of bearishness, right? And so now again, that's on the weekly chart, right? So you would want to do the 150 on the daily, right? Just kind of get that long-term perspective. And so, if it's in the range, is what it is. As long as you're above it and then close above the range and are above the 30 SMA, then that's where you're looking for your bullishness. Daniel, what's going on? Well, let's take a look at Netflix. Thanks for tuning in, man. And appreciate your support. Let's take a look here. So Netflix. 1 second here. I'm going to a swig of my grapefruit. Okay. So let's see. So Netflix is pretty interesting, right? So this is the 50% range, approximately the 50% range of this big breakout candle that it had the other day, and so it came back and retested that today, right, with a lower shadow. So what it's saying is, okay, it's holding the 50% of the range. Let's see if it can continue to hold that, right? So a push above today's high and a couple of these little highs right here could give it a nice move. We still have an open gap above, which you see is that guy right there. Right, nice open gap above. So I think eventually it wants to test that, right? We just have to look for the setups to get in that to see if it really wants to do it, right? So again, and then a breakout over this level, right, with increased volume could get us back to highs and then potentially push to all-time highs, right? That would be pretty cool. Way up there, remember that on Netflix? Pretty interesting stuff. A couple levels right here too. I don't know why it's why we get up there. They just come up with some good shows and stuff, but anyway, they're losing lots of programming, but technically, right, we're right at 50% of the level of the of that breakout candle. So good stuff. Oh yeah, SQ, what a move, right? Beautiful move, beautiful trading today on SQ, right? Obviously pulled back a little bit, with the rest of the market, but great candle yesterday, right? Huge volume, huge, right? We gapped down just a teeny tiny little bit. In fact, that was pretty much the only pullback to get in on this thing was the gap down. So if you could buy the dip on that thing confidently or look for a trade over the prior day's highs, right, you can get a pretty decent move on that. So you can see where that happened here today, right? Once you get over the pre-market levels, we saw a nice move up, a big move on SQ today. Good volume, good strength, right? Held the upper in the range, gave you an ascending triangle today, gave a little bit of breakup, but couldn't handle it into the Fed. Then it gave you your double inside 15 and just kind of pushed down a little bit. But it held up pretty well. It's just after hours, it's kind of blah. And I think that has a little bit to do with Facebook, right? And, things like that. What was the other one? PayPal too. Because PayPal's down after hours, and it's also a payment processing group. So it looks very, very similar to PayPal after hours. So that's another one to keep an eye on. Osbred, what's going on? Yeah, SDC. Yep. So we just took a glance at that one before too. So daily chart, it has been showing some great strength intraday, right? Once it got out of this 15 orb right here, look at that, boom, How about that for volume, right? That's some good volume, right? Just almost as much as the open, if not more, right? And give a nice push up here to a lot of key levels. So yeah, STC has been showing a lot of intraday strength. I think institutions are starting to pour into this thing. They just have to prove that they really want it for us to get in, right? Right now it's still kind of consolidating. You could actually kind of consider this like a little bit of a bull flag that it's working on here too. So maybe you can catch it like MDB, a strong move out of that today. So I think STC is worth putting on the bullish radar for tomorrow. So let me add that to the game plan here. STC, looking good. Great stuff. And then NEO, yeah. So NEO is I think it's probably moving up in sympathy with Tesla. Had a couple nice moves out of the macro trend line levels right here. Then kind of came back in a little bit. It's kind of chopping around here. After hours, it's up just on some Tesla sympathy, right? So let's see if it comes up. It's got a nice little gap here. If it closes above that, tomorrow with some good volume, right, might try to work its way back up to those recent highs. Good. Manoj, what's going on? DLTR. Let's take a look. Ooh, a little bit of a weak candle today. It doesn't have enough volume, right, for me to get super interested, but it does look like it's trying to break itself down. Again, closed under a lot of these range levels right here. So definitely something to keep an eye on here. Not enough volume for me to get like super interested. So just see if it's just kind of holding, like setting a bottom right here, and then it's trading within that range a little bit. So, but definitely looking weak. And then XOM. So XOM, of course, with the rest of this sector, right? The oil sector has just been getting just demolished. It's got earnings coming up, right? So not a lot of volume here to be compelling, but it did put in recent lows, right? We like this thing here, like when it got out of these levels here. So that was a nice candle with some good volume, got some nice downside movement, right? Then you got this guy right here and got some follow through on that too. Oil's been kind of doing this here. So so definitely something to keep an eye on there too. Jay Schwartz, what's going on? SPY expecting a red day tomorrow. We'll see. I think, based on the futures tonight, unless there's some magical tweets tonight, it definitely, could seem bearish, right? So kind of what we talked about at the open, at the beginning here, right? So, we had that bearish gap down, right? We had the gap fill day. Today we had a gap up and they couldn't push, right? The bears could not push, so they ended up closing down. And then I think, basically the Fed is really just digesting. The market is now digesting some of the implications of the repo operations, right? So, possibly now it's sort of like a better safe than sorry. It's like if we just go down now and kind of digest this, unless they can come up with something, something to keep us bullish, right? We'll get on that now. So, but they put like an end date in April for repo operations, and so I don't know. I don't know if the market's starting to get scared about that or not, but we'll see. It looks like it's just kind of hanging out at the lows here. We'll see where we open tomorrow and see how we handle these levels. But ultimately, if you go to the SPX, right, what we've been tracking here is that, we have those lows here as a really, really key level for us. So if we do end up closing bearishly below there, we might start seeing some gap fills below, right? So we're starting to see, just some general weakness. And the fact that we couldn't close green into this candle here is a little bit, concerning, right? So that's just something to keep an eye on. And then Microsoft, yeah. So Microsoft again just has been generally pretty bullish, right? So it's this is just one of those ones. Right? Had a good day today. Obviously, Facebook had a big candle at the end of the close too, so that's not really an indication of bullishness into earnings. But Microsoft is Microsoft. And they also win big government contracts and all that stuff. So so bullish here. We're kind of probably going to be over these levels. We'll see. Who knows if it could work its way up to the top of the channel. See if you find any resistance there. But it did hit that 176.20 after hours, so that is a strong one, and could hold up. Could hold some of the markets up pretty well tomorrow. So it might keep the Dow up, things like that. Let's take a look here at the what is that, 176? Yeah, so 176 is right here at the top of the channel. So it may be gapping up into some resistance tomorrow. So we'll have to see how that behaves in that area. Jonah, what's going on? Yeah, so ROKU, let's take a look. So ROKU, as we've been kind of seeing on Twitter, is looking a little trend boxy, right? So if you kind of look at it, it might be doing like a little bit of a well, it looks more like a descending triangle, but I want to believe that it's kind of like a falling wedge, right? But it could be a descending triangle that it's working on here, which means the more it taps on this level, right? 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, 4, try to get below it, 5, right? The more it taps on it, right? Once we get a bearish close below there with some volume, we could see a move down. We got earnings coming up in mid-February, so something to keep an eye on there too. M-Hawk, what's going on? STZ? Let's see. inside day, right? So a lot of these, these type of stuff, some of these Constellation brands, stocks like this, are, just still kind of like chopping around a little bit in this range. So let's continue to monitor that. It's below the 200-day moving average, but it's above the 50, right? So it may want to chop around a bit until it can give us some sort of indication that it wants higher. Good stuff. Laura, yeah, my pleasure. Gavin, what's going on? FB. Yeah, so Facebook, again, we got to keep an eye on this one. So it's gapping down to 207 right now, which is, wow, right down here, right at the 50-day moving average. Imagine that. So got a little bit of levels right here. If it does get below those levels, we do have an open gap here, right? So it may want to test that quickly before a potential reversal, and we'll just have to see how it does. Yeah, it actually had pretty good earnings, right? So we'll see. If it holds the 50-day moving average, what a great place for it to potentially reverse. So look for a potential buy the dip on that one if the market shows strength. If the market is weak, it might not get the the footing it needs or the ammunition it needs to work its way up. And of course, Beyond. So Beyond had a rough day today. I can't remember if they had some bullish. Did it get a downgrade? I can't remember what it was, but either way, had a rough day today. So gapped up. Right, the price action was pretty interesting. I think it was down on some bad news, and then I think, KFC is using more stores or something like that, so that came up a little bit, and then couldn't hold, right? Double inside 15 and worked its way down, and then of course, continued. So it's a weak candle right here, but there is some support. There's a little area right here and right here. If it does get below these guys, right, you've got your double inside day that might want to get tested, which also corresponds to the cloud. So if it can consolidate there, then we might start to see another move on this, and then we might just have a big trading range for it to work its way through. But anytime you see something that's wildly popular, right, and has crazy moves like that, and then gives you this, right, that just long term, just like boring consolidate, and then it gives you this, right? Remember, cause, effect, right? So here's your breakout candle right here, big volume, and then ultimately worked its way up very, very nicely on that one. And then Tesla, of course, right? Going to be open up just sky high tomorrow. So it's about 650, closed, but it could get to 670 pretty quickly. That's the pre-market after hours levels, and let's see what it does pre-market. Again, remember, Tesla likes to trade inverse to the market. So if we do gap down tomorrow in the market, Tesla gives it all the more reason to keep running, just to keep on squeezing out those shorts. So good stuff there. Samit, what's going on? Codex, let's take a look. Yep, CEODX had an inside day yesterday, right? So nice diagnostic company, right? So good stuff for testing for coronavirus, things like that. Inside 15, kind of holding up in here. It's a little trickier. It's kind of a cheap stock, right? So it's about the price of some of the options, right? But see how it holds, right? So at this point, right, we want to see it get above today's high and try to work from there. And what else? Oh, yeah, and TEVA. Looking a little bit bull flagish right here. It's right at the fib fan line, so see if you can get above these fib fan lines right here. Again, you got a lot of pivot levels right here, so I really want to see it close above that guy with some volume and then try to work its way up. And maybe earnings is the one that can get it above it. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Sakataka SQ Weekly just broke out of a long-term wedge. Nice. So let's see. So SQ, let's take a look here. Let's go to the weekly. See how it's looking. Oh, it's monthly. So weekly, yep, definitely. So yeah, a little bit of a falling wedge right here. Right, which it just got itself out of with some nice volume, right? So that's very bullish, and look at that, it's over the 30 weekly MA, right? And look at how, if you look at this as a trading range right here too, it got out of it on this week, not a lot of volume, but this week for sure, if we close bullishly like this, continues to give this some bullish outlook. So maybe the fact that it's gapping down in a little bit of sympathy with PayPal might be a great buy the dip opportunity tomorrow. So I think it's definitely one to keep on the bullish radar. Great observation. And good. So Matthew, yeah, Match. Let's take a look at Match.com. So MTCH. So here's your weekly chart. Ooh, that weekly chart doesn't look good, does it? Right? It's got earnings coming up pretty soon. Next week, yeah, so early February, so Tuesday next week. Oh, nasty candle, just nasty. Look at that. Ended up closing really weak there. Good volume. This definitely looks weak. So definitely want to keep on the bearish radar for tomorrow. And they're also losing their CEO, right? So that's something to be bearish about. Michael, what's going on? Yeah, DOCU and MDB, absolutely. So DOCU. So let's take a look here. So DOCU, again, looks really good. I like how, when it broke down out of this kind of longer-term channel right here, right? We gapped down right to the held the cloud, held the 50-day moving average, and came back in the channel. So really, I wanted today to be stronger. I like the volume. It just needed to close higher. I like the numbers, nice lucky numbers today. But if it closed a little bit better, that would have been something good for it. And then MDB. Again, same thing here, right? Big upper shadow. It needed it to close a little bit higher, right? Because look what it did right back here, right? Big pivot level, couldn't get above it, right? So selling pressure. So has to prove itself to get above that. And it's trying. But today was a nice bull flag breakout on it, so that was kind of triggered that move today. So oh yep, Laura got it. Go Elon. I know, yeah, he's awesome. Well, he's awesome at running his company. So, but anyway, good stuff, and definitely good at keeping the thing alive, and making it. It's pretty remarkable, really. Yeah. So anyway, good stuff. So Thomas, some company removed Beyond from that. Yep, that's right. Yep. So McDonald's, so allegedly removed Beyond from their menus. That was circulated by traders today. And basically, like, it was like some pictures of the menu showing that Beyond wasn't on it, stuff like that. So who knows if it's legit or not? But generally Beyond is still doing a thing. So good stuff. So Wendy, yes, so we have FSLY. Let's take a look. FSLY. Okay. So FSLY kind of chopping right here. Remember that level right there that we got to get above? It kind of gave you a little bit of a move right here. That's trying again. It's trying again. So at this point, not only do we have that level, we got this level now, and then we got these guys up here, right? Those are kind of some key levels too. But just something to keep an eye on, right? So I like the movement here so far. Let's see if we can get above these guys, this prior resistance, and see if we can make that support. And then ZM, yeah. So ZM, gosh, keeps on popping up on the radar. It's really having some strong intraday moves these days, right? Like kind of out of nowhere type stuff. Decent closes right here. We're still playing the strings on this one, but if you go here, I mean, look at that. Like intraday, it's a huge move, and then a double inside 15 up on that one. A little bit of a pennant right here, right? So a little pennant there, and then it works its way up. Yeah, so keep an eye on Zoom for these momentum moves, right? Look for strong setup, strong candles, good volume intraday. So that's good. And then ENPH. Yep, so in-phase energy, again, we've been tracking this, right? So again, we want a bullish close, really want a bullish close over that guy now too. So bullish close there, good volume, work its way up, take out that guy. And then Shop. Yep, so Shop was great, right? So it, fresh trend line today, right? Fresh all-time high, 480. So still, doing its thing, right? So it's, let's see how it holds. Again, it's doing okay here. It's, see if it continues to build. It may come back, fill some gaps, test this trend line again, and then try to work its way up back to more highs. Again, so monitor that trend line. See if it closes below it, right? Watch 50-day moving average, next trend line down. Yeah, my pleasure. Tracy, good evening. Yeah, Boeing. Yeah, so Boeing had earnings today, right? And so bad earnings. And so, just like Facebook is down on good earnings, Boeing decided to gap up on bad earnings, like horrible earnings, right? Worst ever, right? So it's still gapped up, but, again, it still can't get over a lot of these guys. Like, these guys are important up here. These guys are important up here. It's just so tricky, right? But intraday, it does sometimes give some moves. You had double inside 15 up right here, down, held your levels, right? Kind of chopped a little bit. But yeah, crazy day today. Let's see what kind of follow-up we get on that tomorrow. Right now, there's just nothing compelling except, there's a closing gap below it. May want to test if the market is weak. So it might come back down to these levels here, that 316, 315. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Cigar, what's going on? CRUS, let's take a look. CRUS. Yeah, so Cirrus Logic, looking interesting right here. I mean, obviously, getting over these levels is going to be key, right? It's got a kind of an inverted, right, ascending triangle. So let's see what it does. If it might come down, test that 50-day moving average, work its way up. It's not bearish enough to be bearish, right? So because you have a lower shadow right here, it held a lot of key levels. So let's just see, how it kind of handles this 50-day moving average in this area in here. But generally, it's been pretty strong, right? Here's your range right here, worked its way up, right? If you go to the where's your weekly chart? Right, range bound right here over the 30-day moving average. Right, nice move up. Range bound right here over the 30-week moving average, works its way up. Right, so kind of impressive stuff. Good. Yeah, good one there. And then and Disney. Yeah, thanks for mentioning Disney. So Disney has been struggling. I guess it's they can't really hide that people are unsubscribing from their services, right? But or from their Disney Plus, right? But it is what it is, right? So they just have to get Mandalorian back out as quickly as possible, right? So but anyway, again, they're going to keep a lot. They're going to keep a ton because they do have a lot of value in their stuff, right? But right now, it's just been struggling, right? And the big thing, the big reason this thing's been moving down too, is the closing of the Shanghai plant. Or I'm sorry, I'm thinking factories, the Shanghai Disneyland, right? So that is, obviously affects, their revenue, and it kind of gets a little bit nervous about it. So you do have this open gap below right here. I don't see any reason why this wouldn't get tested, possibly before earnings, right, next week. But it might wait. Right, so we'll see. Had this kind of descending triangle. It's down below it right now. It retested it. It's now below the 200-day moving average, below the 50. So I mean, generally, it's kind of in a weak spot. So maybe it fills this gap right here, and then earnings are stellar, right? And they're like, oh, okay, everything's fine, and all that stuff, and then it tries to work its way back up. So, and maybe they'll give some guidance for us on their streaming service. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, good stuff, guys. I really appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. I think it's been a great discussion this week on the secrets to profiting in bull and bear markets, right? And so it's been good. So tomorrow's going to be a cool wrap up of it. It's going to give some good concepts. I think so. Make sure you tune in tomorrow if you can. Also, if you're new here, definitely click subscribe on YouTube, and also please hit the like button. We always appreciate that, and also check out the links in the description. So, Manu, what's going on? Netflix, please. Do you think Apple earnings report had an effect on Netflix? It might. I mean, everything kind of affects Netflix these days because everybody's, you got the streaming wars going on, right? But Netflix in general, I mean, just like technically is holding up okay. It held 50% of the range of this candle at the day after earnings, right? So, we just want to see how it holds, right? It might be doing like a little bit of a bull flag type thing right here, right? So we can get above these levels right here. That would give us that confirmation of the bull flag, fill this gap, see how it handles that gap, and then just kind of go from there. So they got a lot of work to do fundamentally, and a lot of competition. So we'll see where that goes. So meet proof point. Nice. Sako Taco, yeah, my pleasure. So again, guys, thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope everybody has a wonderful night tonight. Just relax, enjoy the evening, and then we'll have an awesome trading day tomorrow. So everybody, take care, and thanks again, and thank you for your support. And remember, your risk first, and stay safe so you can stay in the game. I'll talk to you guys soon.